for another time. Thank you for gathering us. Thank you for putting this appointment in our hearts and helping us keep the appointment with you. But we beg that all of these will never be in vain. But as your Spirit ministers to our hearts, we will obey every word that He tells us. And by your grace, Lord, even deeper things we may not understand, you will reveal to us, that we will be ready for your soon coming. I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
So you're welcome once again. I will not shy away from the fact that the major event in the world this last weekend was Easter, and that's they celebrated the death, the burial, the resurrection of Jesus Christ, and basically that was what kept everyone busy the last weekend till today. So it was actually a holiday, not really a holiday. And so basically, you are welcome back from the holiday. I believe we rested enough. And so we are back again to begin our study of the book of Daniel. And as we look at the book of Daniel, we see a whole lot happening in prophecy. We may not be able to give all of the details, but we have the direction things are tilting towards. Now, I don't know that this is true, but I stumbled across it today that Pope Francis is late. Have we verified that info? It came out one time, they said it was rumor, and now I think it's out. It came out again today. Did we verify it? I heard Pope Francis is late. Christian, how true is that?
I saw it everywhere.
Okay.
But I don't know how true. I've not really thought about verifying.
Okay. So basically, why am I saying this? Now, all of those prophetic people and the rest of them who view prophecy with different lenses will come up now and say a whole lot. But I want us to be stable as the Word of God leads us. The Word of God does not talk about persons. The Word of God describes systems. It describes systems, and it describes the effect of such systems on God's people. So the emphasis is, except if such persons have direct impacts on God's people, that is where we begin to see names of such persons. For example, Cyrus, who had a direct role to play, and all of these. So I just brought that. If it is true, I do not know. But just helping us to be on track, to be aware of different prophetic whatever that will fill the media space very soon. So we are beginning now with chapter 8 again, and we stopped at verse 9. In fact, doing a quick study on this chapter, I must say thanks to everyone that has afforded me the opportunity of reviewing these things over and over again. And the more I review, the more I see new things. God's words indeed are new. So the more I review, the more I see new things. And so we stopped at verse 9 of chapter 8. And we want to begin again from that verse 9. That verse 9 of chapter 8. So if you can hear it clearly, we are beginning from Daniel 8 verse 9. And out of one of them came a little horn, which grew exceedingly great towards the south, towards the east and towards the glorious land. And out of one of them, I remember someone, it could be Eze or Fidelis, I don't know, I've forgotten now. You know, he was asking last time we met the issues surrounding out of one of them. I don't know if we remember that question. And though I attempted the question, it prompted me to go back. It prompted me to go back and investigate again what is being talked about here out of one of them. You know, there are two things there. We have the four horns that broke, and then we have the four winds of heaven. So the four horns broke to the four winds of heaven. So if we say out of one of them, out of one of the four winds of heaven, which of the wind of heaven? Which of the wind of heaven? And then which one of them? I don't know whether you are getting the. I'm trying to expand more on the question whether Eze or Fidelis asked the last time. So if we say out of one of them, the one of them now, you remember the kingdom of Greece broke into four, and then into four winds of heaven, north, south, east, and west. So now, if out of one of them we see a little horn, in fact, some translations we put it, we see a horn rising from littleness. We see a horn rising from littleness. Out of which one of the four winds? Out of where can we really pinpoint this horn coming from? From littleness. How? And this took me to history. I really was interested in that question asked, and so I tried to see the map I dropped. I went back and I consulted some materials to be sure. Actually, how did Rome come about? How did Rome come about? The history of Rome. And I would like to share not all of my findings. It's just to provoke us to go and do some findings more. I would like to share some of my findings that help to shed light on what the Bible is saying. That out of one of them, we see a little horn, exceedingly great, growing now towards the south. Towards the south. So if it was going towards the south, automatically, where do we see the horn coming from? If it was going towards the south, where do we see the horn coming from? Anybody can speak. Hello, can you hear me? You said? I didn't get it.
Most likely from the north.
Thank you. So if it was going towards the south, automatically it tells us something, that it was coming from the north. It was coming from the north. And if you check the four winds of heaven, the four horns of Alexander's kingdom, Greece broke into four. We agreed the last time from history that it divided into the Antigonids, the Seleucids, the Ptolemies, and the Attalids. I'm just revising what we did before. We said the Antigonids were in the west, the Seleucids were in the east, the Ptolemies were in the south, that is Egypt, and then the Attalids were a special kingdom in the north, Pergamum, the kingdom of Pergamum. And that caught my attention. The kingdom of Pergamum. That caught my attention. How come we find Rome coming from the north, the kingdom of Pergamum? How come? Now there are several stories surrounding it. I wish to share. I would just wish to tease our appetite, just to make us understand that these things can be confirmed. Now, scholars have said that Pergamum is the link. Pergamum is the link between Babylon and Rome. The link between Babylon and Rome is Pergamum. It's a whole lot of history. But now let me just see if how I can give this history in a very short time. The link between Babylon and Rome is Pergamum. Now let's start. For those of us that studied Revelation, you will notice that which church do we see falling into apostasy? Which church? Compromise. The church of compromise. Which church?
I will try to paraphrase.
Okay.
Something to my beloved Pergamum.
Okay, thank you.
I realize
it's okay, thank you.
Yes,
So,
the devil has set up his
devil seat is, thank you. Jezebel was there. Oh,
Let me go.
in fact, you have done well. You have done well. Let me not say anything. So, if you look at the Bible in Revelation, you will notice that Pergamum played a very instrumental role. I'm just using the Bible now before I go into history. So you will notice that Pergamum, literal Pergamum, served as the basis, the link between Babylon and Rome, both in its pagan and papal phase. And remember, this horn, you are looking at this horn, is Rome as it began. So the little horn in chapter 8 is Rome in all of its phases. But now I want to see, it came from out of one of them. And we have established that this one of them is Pergamum, the Attalids. So how come it came from the Attalids? How come? And that is where we are going into history now. Now, history tells us when Medo-Persia conquered Babylon, I'm just giving a rough sketch. You know, I know Christians will love this kind of history, but let me just give a rough sketch. You can fill in the gaps. When Medo-Persia conquered Babylon, Babylon was mainly polytheistic. We already know Bab-El, gate of the gods. So it was polytheistic. But Medo-Persia was, the religion of Medo-Persia initially was unique, different from polytheism. In fact, theirs was Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism was monotheistic in outlook. So they believed in the great controversy between the god Aouda and the rest. They believed kind of. So it was different from the polytheistic religion of Babylon they met. And so there was this war. You will understand, Cambyses, who was the first son of Cyrus, and the first Medes who took over. All of these are history, but let me not bore all of the names. But basically, the clash between Zoroastrianism and polytheism of Babylon led to the people of Medo-Persia driving the priests of Babylon. These priests who according to them, who control the ancient secrets of Babylon, the ancient secrets, the cabal of Babylon. They drove them out of Medo-Persia because Medo-Persia practiced Zoroastrianism, which was kind of monotheistic, and then Babylon practiced polytheism. So they drove them out of Babylon. And these priests of Babylon finally settled in Pergamum, Asia Minor. They settled in. So they were from Babylon actually. Pergamum received them, and that became their base. And then follow very closely, very interesting. I'm trying to paraphrase. So when Pergamum became their base, now when Greece conquered Medo-Persia, remember Greece was coming from the west. So Greece conquered Medo-Persia, so there was the influence of Hellenism. Hellenism, Greek culture, and the rest on Pergamum. And so we see that from Pergamum, the priests of Babylon, when they were, Greece was about to destroy Troy. Troy was around Pergamum. Troy was around Pergamum. So when Greece was about to destroy Troy, these people too from these Babylonian priests of Pergamum fled and established Rome. The history behind Rome, we hear two sons that were abandoned, several myths around the history of Rome. Romulus and Romanus, something like that, established, they were abandoned to die, white beasts fed them, several myths concerning. So if you look at the origin of Rome is enshrouded in myths, but we can get the picture. So from Babylon, literal Babylon, they fled to literal Pergamum, and from Pergamum, they fled to literal Rome. Literal Rome. Now, we also see in history the Etruscans. The Etruscans were also people who were in Asia Minor that had the religion of Babylon too. They have been infected. So they also left with the people of Rome that went to found Rome. They left from Pergamum and founded Rome. Now, when Rome was about to conquer Greece, the Battle of Pydna in 168 BC was fought from Pergamum. The kings of Pergamum, Attalus the first, Attalus the second, Attalus the third, actually made a pact with Rome. And so Rome saw Pergamum as his baby. And that's why you will notice as Rome vanquished the whole other Rome, vanquished all of these other places, it did not touch the west. Now the Bible says it went towards the south, towards the east, and towards the glorious land. So meaning it was coming from the north. So it was coming from the north. Pergamum was in the north. It was from there it won the west. It won the west in the Battle of Pydna in 168 BC. And then having Attalus III, having given Pergamum over to Rome ruled from Pergamum. So it was from Pergamum that Rome now expanded her territory. Conquered the Seleucids in Syria and Mesopotamia, went towards the south in Egypt, conquering Egypt. In fact, chapter 11 of Daniel will give us this picture. Chapter 11 of Daniel gives us this vivid picture I'm describing in historical terms. So it conquered Egypt in the south, it conquered Egypt in the south, it conquered Syria, the Seleucid Empire in the east, and then it moved towards the glorious land. This meant now, look at it very critically. It moved towards the glorious land. So we will now ask ourselves, if it moved towards the glorious land, was the glorious land in existence then? The answer is yes. So the incursion of Rome after 168 BC, we see it coming towards Jerusalem. We saw the Maccabean revolt, and then down. We saw how they finally gained Jerusalem, and they were ruling. In the time of Jesus, it was a Roman colony. Jerusalem was a Roman colony where we had Roman soldiers, Roman governor, and the rest. So they actually attacked the glorious land. But take note, this is in the literal sense. So the summary of what I have just said is that Pergamum, both literal and spiritual, served as a basis for Rome. It was literal Pergamum that kept the secrets of Babylon, the priests, that transferred it to pagan Rome. And then pagan Rome, in the seven churches, it was spiritual Pergamum that transferred it to papal Rome. So the church of Pergamum became the church of Thyatira. The church of Pergamum transferred to the church of Thyatira. So the church of Pergamum was the church of compromise, the church of fusion of church and state, the church of Constantine, where many false doctrine came into the church. And that was from about 313 from the Edict of Milan and down to about 538 AD. That was the church of Pergamum. And that was the church where finally compromise was established for the church of Thyatira, which is Papa Rome. So I believe I have given a brief history. So from a brief history, we can see already that verse 9 makes sense. One of them from the north, from Pergamum, came a horn from littleness. It was quite little. But through pacts, through agreements here and there, it gained ascendancy. And then it grew towards the south, towards Egypt. It conquered the south in Egypt. Towards the east, the Seleucid Empire, Syria, Mesopotamia, it conquered. And towards the glorious land. This is a figure of speech for Judah, for Jerusalem. So I believe I have shared, Mr. Eze, you were the one that asked this question. I believe you have gained a little insight into the answer, and it calls for more study to fill in the gaps. But basically, that is what I could find from studies. Okay, so we can safely move ahead, right? We can simply move ahead maybe until later when we have more questions. So now verse 10. So from now we see the activity of this little one which we have identified as Rome, pagan Rome now. And then he said, it grew up to the host of heaven and cast down some of the hosts and some of the stars to the ground and trampled them. It cast down some of the hosts and some of the stars to the ground and trampled them. So already we see something about chapter 7 and chapter 8, this little one. Let's do a quick analysis of chapter 7 and chapter 8. The little one we find in chapter 7 and the little one we find in chapter 8. Let's do a quick analysis. You will see that in chapter 7, the little horn is called a horn. In chapter 8, it's called a horn also. But there's something that's unique. In chapter 7 was actually written in Aramaic. And chapter 8 to 12, written in Hebrew. But to really tell us that they are referring to the same thing, the word for horn in Aramaic in chapter 7 and the word for horn in Hebrew, chapter 8, is the same thing. To really prove to you that we are referring the little one in chapter 7 and the little one in chapter 8, they are the same system we are referring to. The word for little horn, the word for horn in chapter 7, written in Aramaic, is the same word for horn in chapter 8, written in Hebrew. And that word is keren. So keren, we see keren in Aramaic and Hebrew referring to horn, the same horn. And so that's one parallel. We also see that in chapter 7 and chapter 8, both of them are described as little. So they are described as little. So as they started, it was described as little, as Daniel saw them. But now, as they continued, they became great. Daniel 7 verse 20 will tell us that it became great. Then you also see that Daniel 8 verse 9 tells us that it grew exceedingly great. So the ram was great, the goat was very great, then this little one was exceedingly great. So you see, we are referring to the same person. So certainly this is not Antiochus Epiphanes 4. It is not, because Antiochus Epiphanes 4 did not become exceedingly great. In fact, it did not conquer the south. Antiochus Epiphanes 4 did not conquer the south. It did not conquer the Seleucids, the Syria and Mesopotamia. It did not even make any attempt, though he tried to Hellenize the Jewish system, but it did not make inroads to the glorious land. So certainly we are not referring to Antiochus Epiphanes 4 here. We are referring to Rome. And this is the point to prove it. So when we are looking at prophecy, we need to pinpoint where God does not leave us to guess and speculate. And that's why I said just now, many persons, you will soon hear different social media posts and prophetic statements here and there, now that they say the Pope is dead. But that is not our focus. God has never talked about persons, but he refers to systems. Systems. So the systems now we are looking at, no matter who heads that system. Now, chapter 7 in the little one, you see that it's a persecuting power. In chapter 8 too, it's a persecuting power. So both of them, in chapter 8 verse 10, which we are now, we will soon analyze, is that it grew up to the host of heaven and cast down some of the hosts and some of the stars to the ground and trampled them. In chapter 7, you see that it wore out the saints. It killed the saints of the most. So this same system certainly is Rome. And now the target group of their persecution in chapter 7 is the people of the saints. The people of the saints. In chapter 8, we also see them as the people of the saints. He wants to destroy it. So the target is God's true children. That's his target. He wants to remove everything that relates to God. And remember, we already established a fact that chapter 8 pinpoints the sanctuary. And so we need to understand. I thank Mr. That should be our brother, TJ. He dropped a very insightful video of the sanctuary. I don't know how many of us played that video, but the sanctuary is the key to unlocking chapter 8 to 12. So the attack of the little horn, the attack of Rome, both in its pagan and papal phase, is on the sanctuary. So we need to know who is the sanctuary actually about, and we get there soon to see actually what the little horn is doing till tomorrow, and try to obfuscate this in other things, politics and the rest of them. People do not understand the religious undertone, and the world is being polarized into two. It's either you are for God or you are for Satan, as seen in the activities and support of the little horn. And that is why it's important you make your stand clearly known. If you are for God, make it clearly known, because the Lord knoweth those who are his. If you are for Satan, make it clearly known. The word clearly is emphasized. So there's no dilly-dallying, like Elijah will say, ask them, how long will you halt between two opinions? On that Mount Carmel contest, there was no room now for halting between two opinions. If God is God, serve him. If Baal is God, serve him. Unfortunately, there was no answer. But today, I want to believe we will take a stand. Let's take a decisive stand for God and choose to follow him all the way. So if you check very well, chapter 7, chapter 8, we are referring to the same system. The same system. It is very clear, and that is the point. Now, let's now go to verse 10 and see what we're talking about in verse 10. The Bible says there in verse 10 that it grew toward the host of heaven. So other kingdoms we saw just now, watch. The ram was walking geographically on a horizontal level. That's the ram now, east to west, that's horizontal. The goat, west to east, horizontal geographically, and all of this we saw. But look at this little one. Even from its approach, it came from the north. It came from the north. So if I'm able to talk about the north in a literal sense, you already know that the north is God's throne, biblically, in prophecy. Hope we know that. Hello?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, I just need to be sure. So the north, already, Lucifer said he wanted to sit on the side of the congregation of the north. And the Bible tells us, beautiful constitution, the joy of the whole earth, is Mount Zion, the side of the north, the city of the great king. So basically, looking at the north, looking at the east, these are positions of God. Now, but the little one comes from the north. I'm excited about this. I'm excited not because of the title of the little one, but I'm excited of the precision of this prophecy and how God is making everything so clear for those that we study. And now, you see already that it grew. So the activity of the little horn was more than horizontal, it was also vertical. It was vertical, attacking the sanctuary. And now the question is, the sanctuary was on earth, yes, but at this point, the sanctuary was not yet rebuilt. At this point, the sanctuary was not yet rebuilt. So the question is, which sanctuary was he attacking? Which sanctuary was he attacking? That's the first point. So it says there in chapter 10, verse 10, and it grew up to the host of heaven. So there are three possibilities for us to understand host of heaven, and then we choose. The host of heaven can refer to angels. Host of heaven can refer to angels. Nehemiah 9 verse 6, Judges 5 verse 20, Revelation 12, 7 to 9. This is the host of heaven. That could be angels. Now, host of heaven or host or stars can also refer to literal sun, moon, and star. That's the host of heaven. Now, another meaning of host of heaven represents God's people on earth. God's people on earth, host of heaven. Exodus chapter 7, verse 4. I wish we could see some of these texts, but I'll just state them. Exodus 7, verse 4, Exodus 12, verse 41, 1 Samuel 17, 45. All of these we see the ideas that talk about host of heaven or stars representing God's people. Daniel 12, 2 to 3. Daniel 12, 2 to 3. They're telling us that all of these texts present hosts or stars of heaven to be God's people on earth. And so if we pick that meaning, certainly if it grew towards the glorious land, and we have said at this point in time, Jerusalem was in shambles. Jerusalem was not yet rebuilt. It was still in shambles. And now, the little one certainly cannot go to heaven and conquer God. Certainly, it cannot go to heaven. So, what was his aim? His aim was to conquer the people of God on earth, subdue them, conquer them, so that when he succeeds in doing that, it would think it would have blotted out anything about God. Now, look at the trick. Herod, when Herod saw that he was deceived by the wise men, what did he do? When Herod saw he was deceived by the wise men, what did he do? Anybody?
He ordered for killings of children.
Thank you. So you see, that has been the system. That has been the way. That has been the way. So this king, I cannot get this king. Certainly, this kingdom cannot attack God directly and win. God is always the winner. God, whenever there is a clash between God and Satan, check your scriptures very well. God has always won. The devil knows this. The devil knows this. And so we cannot even compare. There is no match between two of them, no match. So but what he does is that he now turns to harass God's people. So when he saw he could not get the king, he said, okay, I'm going to kill every child 2 years and under. 2 years and under, I'm going to kill them. So that child must die. And so you understand now from verse 10, it grew up to the host of heaven, meaning it began now to attack God's holy people, the custodian of the truth, Rome. Now you see, as Rome started out early, watch. In the first century, second century, third century, in fact, the streets of Rome, the blood of Christians flowed like rivers in the streets of Rome. And they were willing to shed their blood. Read this. In fact, there's a book titled Fox Book of Martyrs. Fox Books of Martyrs. I was reading that book one time, just to get more info. I haven't read other books about such things. But when you read it, your heart, you will be scared. Did I really scared? Or I don't know the adjective to even use now. You will think, how are these people that say they are Christians, people that say they are representing God, your heart will be wrenched. You cannot bear it to see that this evil was and is still being perpetrated by people who claim to represent God. That's so, it's so, my words are failing me now. But certainly, this is devilish. It is devil inspired. It is devil inspired. God has never worked in persecution to force people to obey him. He has never worked that way. So you see, him growing up to the host of heaven, finally is now trying to get into religion, trying to pull down the truth of God's people. And then what we see again is it cast down some of the hosts and some of the stars to the ground and trampled them. So you get it very clearly what it actually means. It cast down some of the hosts. So these people, God's people, who were stars, he began to kill them, to persecute them, to trample upon them. And this started in pagan Rome. In fact, there was one Emperor Diocletian. Emperor Diocletian, there were 10 years of killing from 303 AD to 313 AD. 10 years of killing. Emperor Diocletian. It was tough. In fact, this will tell us that the bodies of Christians were wrapped and used to light the streets of Rome. The body of Christians were wrapped, and in the night, when you see light shining in Rome, in the streets of Rome, you will think it is light. It is actually body of Christians being burnt to serve as light for the streets of Rome. It was as serious as that. For 10 years, Emperor Diocletian, talk about Nero, talk about all of these brutal and godless emperors that tried to remove the truth from the earth. But you see, unfortunately, they didn't know. 2 Corinthians 13 verse 8 says, nothing can be done against the truth but for the truth. The truth will always triumph. Whether it is supported by majority or not, the truth will always triumph. But so in verse 10, we see all of these efforts, the church marching on, and the gates of hell indeed can never prevail against it. So no wonder, mark that this king came from the north. So when we go to chapter 11 now, you begin to see king of the north, king of the north, king of the south. It's the same system, Rome, that is being talked about. Now look at verse 11. It was not content for him to just attack the hosts of heaven, but he even exalted himself as high as the prince of the host. Now, it's becoming more and more interesting. It was not enough for him to just attack the hosts and pull them to the ground and trample on them. Instead now, he went further to even attack the prince of the host. And by him, the daily, now take note, I'm looking at it now from the original text, by him, the daily was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. Verse 11 says, he even exalted himself as high as the prince of the host. And by him, the daily was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. If I stop here and even ask, we can get the full picture. That chapter 8 already talks about the sanctuary, so we already know. Now, if we say the hosts or the stars are the God's people on earth, who is the prince of the host? Who is the prince of the host? Yes, answers. Who is the prince of the host? Anybody?
Jesus.
Okay, thank you. You are right. And we can prove it. We can prove it. Because in Daniel, in the book of Daniel, we see the expression prince being used so far. But one of the passages in scripture that describes Jesus as the prince of the host is found in Joshua chapter 5, 13 to 15. When Joshua was about to conquer Jericho, and that evening as he was moving, he saw a man with his sword drawn. And Joshua, a warrior, dared ask that man, "Who are you? Are you for us or against us?" And that is where he said, "As the captain of the hosts of the Lord, and I now come." This was Jesus. Because before we even say that Jesus is not found in the Old Testament, we have been able to debunk this over and over again. So this was a direct expression of the hosts of the Lord, and I now come. We find this in Joshua chapter 5, 13 to 15. And then Jesus Christ again tells us that in John 8:58. Let me read that quickly so that we can get that insight. John chapter 8, verse 58. I'm using the title big time.
I'm presenting it. I'm presenting it.
Okay, I didn't see. Sorry. I'm sorry about that. So Jesus Christ said in John 8:58, "Most assuredly I say to you, before Abraham was, I am." And this was the I am. This same I am was what Moses, when Moses came before the burning bush, and the bush was burning but was not consumed, God introduced himself as I am. Jesus now, when he came, he picked up that name, Emi, I am, referring to the Old Testament experience. So that tells you it was Jesus. He's the captain of the host. He is Michael. He's captain of the host. So basically, if we say in verse 11 now that this system was not content with just the hosts, but it went to even attack the prince of the hosts, and even attacking the daily which belongs to the prince. And then it also attacks the place of the prince's sanctuary. Verse 11 tells us three ways it attacks the prince of the host. It tells us, first of all, after trying to attack the host, it attacks the prince of the host. It attacks the daily which belongs to the prince of the host, and then it attacks the prince's sanctuary. So certainly the attack was all about Jesus. It was attacking Jesus. And already we see here in verse 11, we see here that if he could not get directly to Jesus, certainly he would want to attack the priestly work of Jesus. The priestly work of Jesus. And we can only understand this in the context of the prince's sanctuary. Because the Bible tells us in Psalm 77, verse 13. Is that the text? I love that text. Please pardon me. Let me be very short. Psalm 77, verse 13. Thy way, O God, is found in the sanctuary. Is that it? Is that it? Is that it? Yes, it is. Psalm 77, verse 13. Your way, O God, is in the sanctuary. So if we want to understand God's way, we need now to go to the sanctuary. That is why you see this system understands this. And so it was not content with just dealing with the host. It moved vertically to attack the sanctuary. But since it could not get to the spiritual sanctuary in heaven, the literal sanctuary in heaven now, where Christ is ministering, it would want to phase out the one on earth. You know, the Bible tells us that there is the people of God now, we are spiritual Israel. And so whatever God is doing, Christ is doing in heaven, affects his church on earth spiritually. So whatever is happening in the literal sanctuary in heaven affects his church spiritually on earth. And so this system wants to remove all of the activities of Christ's sanctuary. Christ's sanctuary. And so the expression daily already tells us something. Now let me just ask. How many types of services do we find in the sanctuary? How many types of services do we find in the sanctuary? How many types? How many types of services do we find? Can anybody hear me? Okay. Hello, am I being heard?
I don't know. I think it's one type to clear sins.
Okay. So there are actually two services. We have the daily service. The daily service. This one is where every day throughout the year, people bring sacrifices to the sanctuary. You understand? They bring their sacrifice, they lay their hands on it, they slaughter, then the priest takes it to the holy place. So the daily service stops in the holy place. The daily service stops in the holy place. And then there is the yearly service. The yearly service takes place on the 10th day of the 7th month. The 10th day of the 7th month. This one is what they call the Day of Atonement. The yearly service now moves into the most holy place. So the daily service stops in the holy place, and then the yearly service progresses to the most holy place and then comes back to the outer court. So watch now. You are looking at the sanctuary. This system is attacking the sanctuary where Jesus, everything about it is Jesus. So meaning it's going to attack everything about the altar of burnt offering. It will attack everything about the laver. It will attack everything about the table of showbread. It will attack everything about the 7 branch candlestick. It will attack everything about the altar of incense, because all of these concern the daily. He wanted to remove, because already the time frame of the activities of the little one, we will soon see as we continue. We will soon see as we continue. So this was an intentional, deliberate, strategic attack at removing Jesus from the picture. And so no wonder this system tells you they are God on earth, infallible. We look at this in chapter 7. So they claim infallibility, they claim being God on earth, they claim everything, removing Jesus and in his sanctuary from the picture. So in our next class, we are going to see verse 11. We are going to see how successful, what were the plans in place to remove the daily, to remove the prince of the host from the picture. What were the strategic steps, and how today do we see these things playing out? So this will happen in our subsequent class. I believe we have questions or we have comments to make. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Sir Gusa. Emanuela, please, can you handle this section, please? Thank you.
Wow, we've had quite a journey today. Thank you so much.
I don't know if it's me, but your network is weak.
Yes, I can't hear you again.
But there was a place I got lost, and I know it provokes me to go and further study on. Okay. Please confirm if you can hear me now. Hello, is my network any better?
Yes.
All right, I assume everyone can hear me better now. Okay. So much, Pastor Osa. Loved where we started and the whole historical journey we took. Frankly speaking, I got lost at the point, but on my own end, that provokes me to go study more on the subject matter. Without further ado, I'll follow our little routine first. Please, do we have any questions?
Chukwemeka, please mute your mic.
Do we have any questions before we take contributions, please? Any questions? All right, so before I start picking any contributions, so I know we've studied quite a lot today, and I wish that after this study we'll go to Revelation next, because all this pepper that they're peppering us. Mr. Nanso has his hand up. I assume it's a question. Okay, please, Mr. Nanso, go ahead.
First of all, thank you, Sir Gusa, for I saw the effort you put there to try to make these things clear for us today. My question is just a concern. like if you go to other translation, you see the Antiochus, like you were trying to, distinct it for us very well. What's so special about this Antiochus, and why is he the nearest person that is being pointed, and to be the this little one in order to deceive everyone who is trying to study this text, so that we be able to know these things behind it, so that probably as we are discussing it to someone who can tell the difference. I don't know if my question is clear, sir. Ah,
Sir, please, did you get Nanso's question?
I think his network took him out. Probably we join back. I just saw him left.
Oh, wow, okay. Do we wait for a minute or two? Or pending when Pastor Osa joins, Mr. Nanso, please, you may have to ask your question again when he joins. Please, do we have any contributions from the house? I know we studied quite a lot today, but do we have any contributions? Mr. Christian, you don't have any contributions today? Let me start with Mr. Christian.
Honestly, I don't have any contribution today. It was quite clear. Yeah, I don't have. I don't have any contributions today. It was quite straightforward and clear, and I guess I knew some of the history about.
Okay, no problem. This is why I say they want to prepare us with study of Revelation, because some people now they will be paraphrasing and paraphrasing. Let us too paraphrase. But anyways, I also look forward to the rest of the study. Mommy Evelyn, please, do you have any contributions for us?
No, I don't have much contribution. I'm trying to break the history of our beginning till so that we know the present time where we are. So there's no more. We try to explain the whole thing so that we don't tell we are and prove we are in good job.
Thank you so much, ma. Jackson, please, do you have any contributions?
Nope. I joined late.
All these latecomers, they're the ones that usually ask for presents. But they never join early to even know whether there's any presents. But no shakes, no shakes. And do you have any contributions? And please confirm you're with us. Do you have any contributions? Okay. I assume Anne is asleep or she's not with us anymore.
No, I don't have any contributions.
Alright then. Mr. Eze,